Welcome to the unknown, a place where ghosts, cryptids, and extraterrestrials are sought. This is where you'll find answers to questions about what lurks in the dark. This is Para-Scope Uncensored.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Clarissa Vasquez. Riding shotgun this evening, as always, is the future Mr. Clarissa Vasquez, Joe White.
How you doing, everybody?
How are things going, Joe?
It's going.
Yeah? Are you enjoying Colorado still?
Absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way.
It's still got to be kind of a culture shock, though, for you compared to, where you spent, your entire life out on the East Coast, and now you're out in the middle of the country up in the mountains.
Yeah, it still amazes me going out the front door and seeing mountains like every side.
They're everywhere, I tell you. They're everywhere.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
And you've only seen a small portion of them.
I'm sure. I mean, they stretch several states, so it's an awesome sight to see.
Yeah.
Especially out in Massachusetts, where you don't get to see much. Then what they call mountains out there, the tiny hills.
Yeah, I call them glorified hills.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. It's a sad week in the paranormal field, folks, let me tell you.
Yes, it is. Sorry to say, we were heartbroken with the passing of Mr. Stanton Friedman, physicist, author, UFO researcher, and we would like to give out our condolences to all his family, friends, fans. With that said, we'd like to give a brief moment of silence in memory of Stanton Friedman. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Stanton Friedman was really, if I dare use the word pioneer, he was a pioneer in the field of extraterrestrial research and UFO exploration, was he not?
Yes, he was. He actually investigated, when he first heard about it in the 70s, the UFO crash in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. And he actually ended up speaking to Jesse Marcel, who I believed, not sure where he lived at the time, but he did, his investigation into that.
So he was part of the investigating team, the civilian investigating team. Stanton Friedman was part of the civilian investigators into the Roswell incident.
Yes.
Roswell incident. I can talk tonight, folks. Really, I can.
Well, that's understandable.
Right. And we also, non-paranormal related, we also lost Tim Conway this week.
Yes. My favorite comedian.
He was one of my favorites, too. The skit on the Carol Burnett show where he was going on and on about the elephants.
Siamese elephants.
Yes. Snarky. Yes. One of my favorites.
And the dentist skit.
Yes. Yeah. He and Harvey Korman played off of each other really well. And now they're playing off of each other on the other side, I'm sure. Making everybody laugh on the other side.
Yes, our condolences go out to his family, friends, fans as well.
Definitely.
They will both be missed.
Yeah. But we have got a great guest lined up for you tonight, folks. If you remember back in March, we had Aubrey Baldwin from Thin Line Paranormal on the show, and we liked her so much that we went out and saw her. We went out and paid her a visit, had lunch with her when we were driving through Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago, and we decided that we needed to have her back on the show. And if you remember, she's the one that coined the phrase menage a spook with regard to Joe's ethereal lap dance that was captured with the SLS camera during an investigation last fall. And so we are excited to have Aubrey back on the show. She's also the one that's been feeding me some of the fantastic intros for when I'm introducing Joe on the air.
Some of them?
Most of them.
Yeah, most of them. Thanks, Aubrey.
We're going to have Aubrey on the show here in a couple of weeks. Or, I'm sorry, here tonight. We're going to have her on the show. And then next week we're going to have three guys, Chris, John, and Eric from Memphis Empath Paranormal Society. And then the following week on June 6th, we're going to have from Hollywood Ghost Hunters, Rick McCollum on the show.
Yay. So
we've got some great entertainment lined up for you guys here on Para-Scope Uncensored. And we encourage you to tune in every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, where you can participate in our chat room with like-minded and sometimes not so like-minded individuals. But it's always a good time. And another interesting piece of news is I'm going to be featured in the next edition of a magazine. I'm looking it up right now because I don't remember the name of the magazine off the top of my head. I submitted the article yesterday thinking, I'm getting it in under the wire. There is absolutely no way that, that they're going to accept this, at the last minute, especially since it was a cold call submission. But the Paranormal Chronicles magazine did accept my submission, and so I'm going to have an article featured in their summer edition.
And that is a free online magazine?
Yes, it's a free online magazine, and give me just a second to look up the link where you can find it. It's not out yet. It's coming. It's theparanormalchronicles.com where you can find it. And like I said, I submitted an article to them at the very last minute and was accepted. And surprised me, and I think it surprised them to get this, cold call submission. Like, here I wrote this article, use it or don't. And they emailed me back and said that it was fantastic and they're going to make sure it's featured in the upcoming magazine. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So lots of big and exciting things are coming down the pike here in the paranormal field. And we just heard from Aubrey, our guest for this evening. She said she's getting her game face on. So she's getting ready. We're going to bring her onto the show here after our first break. But I learned something new in the field of paranormal investigation. We talk a little bit about, pareidolia, which is the brain's ability to interpret visual anomalies into familiar objects. And the best comparison I can give is, when you look up and see a bunny rabbit in the clouds, obviously there is no bunny rabbit up there, but the shape that the clouds are making, your brain makes that connection into something familiar. And so your brain goes, oh, that looks like a bunny rabbit. Right. And that phenomena is called pareidolia. When you have an auditory anomaly, your brain can make the same connection, and that phenomena is called apophenia. And I learned the other day that there is a term for olfactory phenomena as well called phantasmia, Phantasmia. And the best description I can give for that one is, if you're familiar with the carnation flower, it smells like cloves. And obviously there are no cloves in the flower, but it smells like cloves. And so your brain makes that connection that, oh, this flower smells like cloves. And that's called phantasmia.
Fascinating.
So, just another, big word to use when you're out there in the paranormal field, along with pareidolia and apophenia and all of those other big fancy words that we like to use to make ourselves sound smarter than we really are.
And that was, I'm sorry, what was the audio one called again?
Apophenia.
Apophenia?
Apophenia, PH. Apophenia.
That's like with the two words that came out last year? Is that what... Does that fit in that category, right?
The two words that came out last year. Laurel and what was the other one?
I can't remember.
I don't remember. I know one was Yanni.
Yes.
Yanni and Laurel. Yeah, that's total apophenia. Yeah, and come to find out, it's actually the word that was used is actually laurel. The original recording was laurel, but a lot of people were hearing Yanni or Yanni, depending on how your ears interpret it. So, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I kept hearing laurel.
I heard Yanni.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's been almost a year now since the Laurel Yanni controversy. And I'm still looking to see if there's a term for the phenomena that makes frog legs taste like chicken.
Well, I mean, doesn't everything supposed to taste like chicken?
Supposedly everything tastes like chicken. I don't think everything tastes like chicken, but a lot of people think it does. So,
I mean, what puts that in people's heads that think that everything tastes like chicken?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, do we actually live in some type of matrix, or so to speak? I don't think so, but...
Well, I don't know, but, the generic ghost hunter word, for all of this phenomena, whether it's pareidolia or apophenia or phantasmia, is matrixing. Mm-hmm. That's a generic word for all of them. When there's actual clinical words for them, such as pareidolia, apophenia, and phantasmia. So, and phantasmia is not one that I was familiar with. So, it's, I've been in this field for over 20 years, and like I said last week, you never stop learning. There's always something new to learn, and so this week I learned about phantasmia, and that's something that I'm sure is going to come up in the next book that I'm writing with Chris Carr, and because he and we discussed it pretty in depth the other day, although neither one of us could find a word for the phenomena that makes frog legs taste like chicken.
I don't know, frog legs to me, I've had frog legs, and tell you the truth, that it tastes, I can't explain it. The only best way the word that I can explain it, it tastes swampy.
Okay.
There is a bit, for me anyways, there's a bit of an aftertaste of swamp.
Okay. I'm afraid, given all of my food allergies and everything, I'm a little afraid to try frog legs. So I don't want to have to use the EpiPen, so I think I'm going to err on the side of caution and not try frog legs.
Yeah. I mean, I've had other things, but it's like, I've had buffalo.
Buffalo's good.
I haven't had snake. I I know there's people out there that eat snake.
Yeah, I haven't had snake. I haven't had squirrel or possum or any of that either.
Nope.
But yeah, so, like I said, there's always something new to learn in this field. And for me this week, it was phantasmia, which is the olfactory connection, between, what you're smelling and what your brain interprets you to be smelling. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think it can be applied to the field of paranormal research because there are times where, you are experiencing phantom smells, and so are you smelling, are you smelling roses, or are you smelling, something that your brain is interpreting to be roses? And so, that can be applied in several different areas of paranormal research, most specifically ghostology, in my opinion. So just, something new, something interesting for our listeners to take a gander at and maybe study up on a little bit if they choose to.
Yeah. I mean, I've even had experiences on investigations where I've actually walked into a room and smelled like cigar smoke and actually followed it out of the room.
Yeah, but there was no cigar burning.
There was no cigar burning. So where is it coming from?
Yeah. That could be a prime example of phantasmia. But it is time for our first break of the evening, folks. But when we come back, we're going to have Miss Aubrey Baldwin from Thin Line Paranormal on the show with us. So stay tuned and have your tissues ready because the laughs are sure to be plentiful. You're listening to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we will be right back.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son, what are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Para-Scope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Para-Scope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Para-Scope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Para-Scope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White, and riding right across from me is Miss Clarissa Vasquez.
Good evening.
And
we're having a little technical difficulty trying to get our guest on the line tonight, folks. So if you'll bear with me 1 second, Joe's going to talk about some stuff while I'm trying to get our guest on the line.
So, the move out here was, I moved out from Massachusetts to Colorado, and it was hard for me because I ended up leaving my whole life behind, so to speak. My parents, I have kids out there. It's just very hard for me. I'll never get over it, but I'm trying to get past the hurt.
Hello. Hey, we got our guest on the line.
Yay!
Yay!
Party.
Skype was being typical Skype, and so had a little trouble bringing you on while we were at commercial, but we got you on now. So, folks, we are awesome. Very pleased and honored to be joined by our guest this evening. She is the founder and director of Thin Line Paranormal out of Pennsylvania, Miss Aubrey Baldwin.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Nice to hear everybody. How's everyone doing tonight?
Fantastico. How are you?
Mr. Mello himself, Mr. Menage Spook Joy.
That's me.
You know I was going to say it.
I know you were going to say it.
Mr. Radio Voice.
Mm-hmm. The white, very white.
Oh, absolutely.
Stop that now. You're going to get me in trouble.
And all week we've been saying that Joe was going to be the one in trouble because we were, between you and me having you on the show and everything that, Joe didn't stand a chance.
Nah, he's in trouble.
So what's new in the paranormal field, Aubrey?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Well, right now we're working on some new locations from our home area of Chadsport, Pennsylvania. We're looking to check out some old locations, some new locations. We actually just were able to do a paranormal investigation of the mill in Anselma, which is in Chester County, not far from where I live.
Outstanding. And are you able to talk about that a little bit, or is that confidential?
No. We're still going through some of the evidence, some of the EVPs and whatnot. But yeah, they were pretty active that night. At one point, we were looking over from the miller's house, looked into the mill, and there's this big amorphous black blob just dancing around. I'm like, I know that's not me with a flashlight behind me. Oh, no. It caught me off guard completely.
Okay, and so were you able to approach it? Did you try to approach it? How did you handle it?
Where we were literally, I'd have to say, 60 to maybe 100 feet. We were across the way in the Miller house. The mill itself and the Miller's house are two separate buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had seen it, it was on the second floor of the mill itself. So I looked and went, holy schmolies. It was just really interesting. It caught us off guard. But once we left the Miller's house and went to try to approach the mill again, it was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, we rounded the front of the mill, and we know the lights, certain lights come on in the building and whatnot. We went to go look in the office of the last individual that lived there. He was a brilliant man, an inventor, was a barber. He was a jack of all trades, master of none, that type of guy. And I swear to goodness, it was like he was up in his office. I kept seeing this partial apparition of a man working up in the office. Like, okay, if he waves, I'm probably going to jump out of my skin.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty neat.
What kind of equipment were you using?
We used a little bit of everything. I used my K2, the digital recorder on my cell phone, which is absolutely amazing. It seems to be very sensitive because many times I've gone there and used my cell phone to record voices, and wow, the things I capture.
Yeah, as far as the cell phone for the recording app, that seems to be getting better and better as cell phones get better and better.
It is getting a lot better, and the one for my phone, I use a Samsung, and it is, the clarity is just absolutely amazing on it.
So were you able to back anything up as far as like EMF spikes or voices when you saw this anomaly?
Yes.
Awesome.
Let's just say I squealed like a teenage girl going to prom.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So what else you got going on? Any other investigations coming up?
We're working on a few places again. As I said, we were working on a few places in our town of Chadsford. I'm trying to look for locations around my hometown, which is roughly about 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia. It's a little area called Coatesville, because there are many like old school Victorian houses. There's an old steel mill nearby. I doubt that we'll be able to get in there, but we know a few people. And what's really neat behind this old Victorian mansion, which is known as the old Lucan's Mansion, behind it, they actually have pieces of the World Trade Center back there. After they were dismantling the towers, those pieces of steel actually came back.
Wow.
And I've had several K2 spikes just walking around the site itself back there.
Now, I'm going to ask you a hard question here, Aubrey. And I know some of our listeners are going to understand why I'm asking you this. Do you feel that maybe it might be a little too soon to be investigating the World Trade Center sites and the World Trade Center pieces? Do you feel that it may be a little too soon and a little disrespectful to be investigating some of those spots?
It is. I believe it is, because it's basically like going to a mass grave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go by, I do my ever so lovely, Stations of the Cross, being Catholic and whatnot. And I said, I'm sorry if I capture anything. If you make something spike on this little device here, I apologize, but I thank you for showing yourselves.
Okay.
I try to be nice about it. If it happens, it happens. I'm not going to narc it, but I'm at least going to say thank you for everything that they've done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in particular, the people that were on board Flight 93.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Who sacrificed themselves to save countless.
Exactly. That's almost like people that go down in the submarine to go visit the Titanic. I mean, it's still a mass grave, but people constantly keep going down there and bringing stuff up. It's leave it alone. Let it be.
Yeah. I mean, it's only been recently that people have been allowed to actively investigate sites at Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And
regardless, you got to be respectful.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are like historians and teachers of an unspoken history. You got to hold them in the highest regard, or nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And and I would love to be able to investigate Pearl Harbor. I think that enough time has passed that the wounds are not as fresh as they were, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to be able to investigate Pearl Harbor, but personally, as far as the World Trade Center and the site of Flight 93 and the Pentagon and and locations like that, I personally, I think it's too soon.
Yes, it definitely is. It is.
Which brings to mind another question, and I think you and I discussed this at lunch a couple of weeks ago. There is, and I won't even assign this person a gender, let alone mention their name, but there is a bottom dweller out there who believes that, yeah, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
There's a bottom dweller out there who believes that it is not only appropriate but acceptable to try to make contact with people within hours after they've passed. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they've tried to make contact with Stan Friedman this week. And I know for a fact that they did try to contact Lorraine Warren the day that she passed, because it's all over their YouTube channel. How do you feel about that about that practice, Aubrey?
That's not cool. I can understand, they're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to make themselves popular. They're trying to get those likes on YouTube. But consider the family. Consider the memory of these people. Let the families go through their grief process. They don't need to hear, say, grandma or grandpa talking like 20 minutes after they've passed. Let these people grieve, man. Just let it go. Just absolutely let it go.
Yeah. Joe and I talked about this on the air a couple of weeks ago. And, me personally being, an investigator, I don't know that I would be too upset about someone trying to contact me, minutes after my passing or hours after my passing, simply because, I've spent more than half of my life, researching ghostly phenomena and trying to find out what happens after we die. And so if I can contribute from the other side, towards someone else's research, I personally would be okay with that. And I think, that Lorraine Warren would have been okay with that if she was genuinely contacted by this individual. But other people, so case in point, Stan Friedman this week, UFO researcher, he may not be too cool about that. And certainly his family wouldn't. And Joe mentioned when we discussed it a couple of weeks ago, right after Lorraine passed, that, if this individual was trying to contact me within hours after my passing, Joe would be upset.
Yeah, because that's interfering with Joe's grief process. That's just not cool. Mm-hmm. You just don't do that to people. That's like a big no-no. That's like a slap in the face.
Yeah. And so while I as a person and as a spirit, hypothetically, would be okay with it, my family may not be. And so, it goes back to the premise that, this is very disrespectful what this individual does. And they have thousands of followers and subscribers on their YouTube channel and thousands of supporters on their YouTube channel, who believe that this is an acceptable practice, that this is an acceptable method. And, it goes back to, what's going on television. People watch these television programs and then are led to believe that what they're seeing on TV is acceptable behavior when it's not.
It's not. It absolutely isn't. Me, honestly, I'd make sure I'd leave a note. Hey, guys, it's completely fine. But then again, that's me. But no, it's, as I said, it interferes with a person's grief process. You have to give the memory of this person its respect. You have to, let them rest. In time, right. Say, who's to know? Like, say a year, 2 years, 3 years. Hey, I'm feeling good about things. I miss Grandma and Grandpa. Maybe I'd like to hear something to help me go through the rest of my grief process, so I know that things are okay. Things will be good.
Yeah, definitely. And so again, maybe I'll put it in my will that immediately following my funeral, Joe is to go and try to do an EVP session.
I'm just going to leave a note with a bottle of Diet Coke. Said, hey, I was here. Now I'm not. You have full permission to use my SB7 spirit box to say hi.
Yeah. And so that, I can send Joe an EVP going, really, you put me in that dress?
Joe, you're in for it now, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
And you'll know it's her because she'll say, Master the Menage Spook, you turkey.
Well, if anyone's going to make contact with me, it's going to be her. I know that for a fact.
Oh, you know she will. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't receive a spectral backslap to the back of your head.
Yeah. But
And you'll know it's her because everything will make sense. You'll see extra sprinkles on your donut, or you'll suddenly notice that package of double stuffed Oreo cookies sitting up on the market shelf. You'll know it's her.
absolutely. But back to the subject we were just talking about, contacting people that have passed. Even though that Stanton Friedman is a UFO researcher, even though that ufology is part of the paranormal, a lot of people think it's its own category that's actually in the paranormal field. Let's get that straight and out of the way. Do you think that this certain individual would actually contact him, even though he's not in the...
Even though he's not part of the ghostology field, even though he was more of a ufologist?
Correct.
I noticed that when he does a lot of these, he does it when people start making requests like crazy. When he receives, say, as he's mentioned, thousands upon thousands of requests. Oh, can you do this person? Can you do that person? He does it. It's like a dog. You give him a biscuit, he'll do a trick.
Right.
You know, and that's the only time I've noticed that he will do this. You know, when Stanley died, thousands of people went nuts, bombarded some of his videos and said, "Hey, do Stanley."
Right. And I think the celebrity status of the deceased plays a lot into it, which is why it wouldn't surprise me if this individual tries to make contact with Mr. Friedman.
Give him enough time. I can see this particular individual doing something like this.
Yeah. And that is it's sad. It's shameful and it's sad.
Yeah, it doesn't play cool in my book.
Yeah.
This is one of those moments where I wish I lived in said person's town for the inevitable backslap to the back of the ball head. And it's gonna crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we are coming up rapidly toward our next break of the evening. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Aubrey some more about her organization, Thin Line Paranormal. We're going to learn a little bit more about that organization, what they're all about, their mission, their purpose, and probably some more of the investigations that they've conducted. So stay tuned, folks. You are listening to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. I'm Clarissa Vasquez. Riding shotgun this evening is the man who electrifies my soul, Mr. Joe White.
How you doing, everybody?
And we are on the line with Aubrey Baldwin. She's the founder and director of Thin Line Paranormal out of Pennsylvania. And we've been talking a little bit about ethical practices and, you know, some of the things that have been frowned upon in the field of paranormal investigation. But we haven't talked a whole lot about Thin Line yet. So, Aubrey, why don't you tell us a little bit about Thin Line Paranormal, how long you guys have been around, what your mission and purpose is. Go for it.
All right. Well, we originally started out back in, I believe it was December of last year. What had happened was two of my teammates, one named Josh, the other one named Sasha, Josh and Sasha as I like to call them, had invited me to go on an investigation of a museum where the gentleman, Christian Sanderson, had done a lot of collecting. And this man has, oh my gosh, you won't believe it, like old school Boy Scout patches. He has like suits that he's worn There's even 3 or 4 of his violins hanging in the place, things that he has personally touched or has personally collected himself. They said, "Do you want to go?" That was a crazy question. I said, yeah, hello. And that's basically where we all started. We've been together for roughly almost 7-8 months now. We're working together to look for proof of the afterlife. We are working on, as I mentioned, we're trying to get some lectures, some historical commission stuff going. And it's actually been an interesting ride. I love these 2 guys. They've always been willing to work with me, and they're great. You know, it's just been an amazing experience so far.
Outstanding. And am I correct that you just took on some new members or honorary members or something to that effect?
Yes, we just did. For our first investigation of the Mill of Anselma, we had a little bit of a scheduling issue. However, the parent of one of our members had gotten there before we all had, and she said, "I vouch for these guys. I'll hang out and wait for them." Her name's Marcia, and she's just been an amazing help. She'll try to get there early before us. Hey, they're coming. It's all good. She's been great. The other honorary member is a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Tolbert. He's the assistant professor of American Studies and Folklore from Penn State Harrisburg.
Oh, okay.
And he and I have been talking about some of my experiences, some of my abilities, taking pictures. I've invited him on a few investigations on the side, so that way he can continue with a research study that he's currently doing.
Okay. Outstanding. It's not often that you get, a collegiate professor, to assist with your investigations. That is outstanding.
He's been absolutely amazing. As a matter of fact, when we had gone through the Mill of Anselma, he was kind enough to forward any pictures, any sound evidence, and even a short movie clip that he had taken while he and I were inside the mill trying to collect EVPs.
Oh, okay.
So that was an added bonus for us since we were a little shorthanded at the time.
And how did that go?
It went great. He stuck around for 2 hours. He did some of his own EVP work. I told him, Jeff, you just want to relax, play it cool. Imagine it as if you're almost like the new kid on the block and you want to try to make friends. Just play it nice. Don't be pushy. Relax, and you'll be fine with these guys. And he did great. He was absolutely great. He says, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'll ever be a great investigator." I think he's already has that type of work ingrained in him. It's like I told him, "Don't doubt yourself. You'll be fine," and he was. No muss, no fuss.
Yeah, it sounds like he's already got the ability to be analytical about things.
Yes, which is one thing I am grateful for, because say for instance, if I'm listening to something, he may catch it as something else, or if he's taking pictures, they'll go, "Oh, I took this picture and this." Now, see, the one thing we did have to teach him were a few of the, as I like to call it, the tricks of the trade, so to speak. He was taking one picture at a time. I said, "Dude, no, you have to take a couple at a time, because if you catch something, you want to be able to disprove it."
Right.
And as I said, the man did great. I couldn't be any more proud of him.
That is fantastic. So do you think he's going to continue to assist you guys with your research or on a regular basis, or is it just going to be kind of an as needed thing? Or
I made him an honorary member. And I told him anytime that we go on an investigation, even if it's for one of our smaller locations, he is more than welcome to come with us. He's an all-around good guy. I'm helping him with research for the study that he's doing, and he appreciates it. He always says, "Is there anything I can bring? Can I bring drinks? Do you want me to make a donation?" I say, "Jeff, bring yourself." And that's just the type of person that he is. You know, he's always, he's like, "I can carry a bag." No, Jeff, just come with. Take your pictures. Talk to the spirits with us. Just as I said, just an all-around good person.
Now, do you guys have regular organizational meetings, to discuss, where you're at, where you're going, where you want to go, as far as an organization as a whole? Do you guys do that yet?
We do not. However, I talk with these 2 or 3 people almost every other day.
Okay.
And we're always bouncing ideas off each other. I said, "Do you have any concerns, questions, anything you want to go over? Do you have a suggestion for a location? Please share."
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like I always want to give them that open. I don't want them to think that no, they have no right, no opinion. But I try to make it as open as possible to let them, hey, make your opinions, make your statements. What would you like to do? What would you like to see? That way it's showing them that this is a group organization. It's just not one man to conquer the world with 3 cohorts carrying the bags. No. This is for all of us.
Right. Well, in my experience, I've noticed that people that are unsure of themselves have actually become the better investigators.
I've noticed that too.
I have myself. I have one person in the group that tends to be a little quiet, a little withdrawn at times, but they're the ones that seem to work the hardest. They will go through everything so tightly and so neatly and perfectly packaged, so that way when they present it for, say, someone else to look at or to make an opinion on, we don't have to ask questions. It's done. It's ripped, ready to go.
Outstanding. Now, Thin Line Paranormal, where do you see this organization 5 years down the road?
I see us getting better. Possibly, we may take on a few new members. We're always open to take on new members. The biggest thing is being able to work as part of a team.
Right.
Not as I said, not one person to conquer the world. It's we work together or it's not going to work.
And do you see yourselves expanding to do, longer distance investigations and residential locations, or do you see your organization still just primarily focusing on commercial locations?
We're always open to doing home locations. As a matter of fact, one of my team members was in the process of talking to an individual to do a residential location. Apparently, there is rumored to have poltergeist activity.
Really?
Yes. So this will be interesting.
And when is that scheduled to take place?
We're still in the process of. I myself would like to talk to the homeowner to get an idea of things going on, not just it go to one person, then I have no idea what's going on. I want the team to share the information. I want to make sure that they're also comfortable with traveling to this location and investigating. Apparently, from what I've been made to understand, it's in the middle of Delaware somewhere, which is anywhere from a half hour to an hour.
Interesting. And are you guys opposed to working with other teams to collectively, work together on some of these locations that are out of state and so far away?
We're not opposed to it at all. It's all about para-unity.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe we'll learn something from them. They may learn something from us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Definitely.
just the general idea, hey, we're willing to work together to achieve a common goal. And that is there something after this life?
And what is it that you feel is after this life, Aubrey?
Oh, I have a feeling that there's something going on, but it's for me it's like a journey, you know. It's just going to get better as time goes on.
Okay, and earlier in the show you mentioned that you are a Catholic. So, do you believe that that journey involves heaven or hell or purgatory or reincarnation, or what do
Well,
you think follows this particular life?
well, I've actually studied roughly many different religions over the last 20 to 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they all seem to say something about some sort of afterlife. The pagans mention Summerlands, Catholics have heaven and hell. Me, I think when you go, you just don't go away. You go into something.
Right.
Where it is, that's, you know, for basically, I think the universe to decide. I mean, when you pass, my thoughts are that you become energy and you go back to the universe to become part of that energy. It's like you just don't go. You become part of everything that came before you and will come after you.
Okay. So you're not necessarily prescribing to one specific doctrine. You're kind of reserving judgment.
Correct.
Interesting. Very interesting. And have you been Catholic your whole life, or is that something you grew up with, or is that something you found later on?
I grew up with it for many years. In my teens, I started reading and studying witchcraft and the occult.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm more, I'd have to say, spiritual than anything.
Okay.
I mean, I do believe that there is a God, not necessarily the Catholic or Christian type God, but someone that helped make the universe and decided to plot me on this planet. So can't be wrong. Can't be anything wrong with that.
Okay, it is time for our top of the hour break, but when we come back, more with Aubrey, Clarissa, and myself. You're listening to Para-Scope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we'll be right back after this message from NPR. Scope Uncensored on the WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Joe White. At the helm with me this evening is my dearly beloved Clarissa Vasquez.
Good evening, everyone.
Clarissa, we're having a great time discussing different topics and talking about Thin Line Paranormal with director and founder Miss Aubrey Baldwin.
Yes.
You called me Audrey. You know you get a
Aubrey.
spanking.
I'm sorry.
Oh, she threatened to spank you.
The hand is wet. Let's rock.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not afraid to throw down Mr. Whiteberry White.
Now, Aubrey, we've kind of tossed around the idea over the last few weeks of maybe doing a massive joint venture, exploring different places in the state of Pennsylvania. And the state of Pennsylvania is huge.
Oh, yes, it is.
I mean, it took us an entire day to drive through the state of Pennsylvania when we were moving Joe out here.
Yeah.
Part of that is because we stopped in Gettysburg, but, what are some of the places that you think we need to include in this massive ghost tour that we're talking about embarking on? next summer?
Oh, let's see. There's places in an area I know of. It's technically the Poconos, but the city itself is called Jim Thorpe. A lot of the stuff in that area roughly started like 1700s, 1800s. A lot of it's old school Victorian. One infamous place up there is the haunted jail that they have up there. Usually runs from roughly like May to October, November, and then they stop. But still, that place is apparently awesome. That's one spot. There's a Eastern State Penitentiary. There's,
Bucket list.
oh yeah. Yeah, I've actually been to Eastern State Pen. And that's actually where I suffered what I like to call my partial possession.
Oh, do tell.
Oh, I had gone there with an associate of mine for their ever so lovely Terror Behind the Walls. We were in line to go into this one attraction called the Workshop. And I remember blanking out for a second, which it does happen. But my friend that I went with was snapping at me, touching my face. She said, yo, what's going on? I said, what just happened? She's like, you were out for like 5-10 minutes. I said, really? What was going on? She's like, you were walking as if your ankles were shackled and your wrists were cuffed. I said, interesting. A few seconds later, we entered the workshop, and this actor who tried his best to scare the pants off of me didn't quite succeed when I gave him the look like I had been in the pen for 20 years and you're not going to mess with me. He actually had to tell me, get the bleep away from me. You're scaring me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But that's a really good place to check out. I mean, they're not only open for just Terror Behind the Walls. They're open during the week, and if I'm not mistaken, between the hours of 10 and 5, and they let you walk through, see what an actual cell block looked like, and it's painted, it's lighted, and you get to see all kinds of bits and pieces on the walls about information about the place and whatnot. There's also a talking tour, which is done by actor Steve Buscemi, which is really good. Yes, it is quite excellent.
I'm trying to envision Steve Buscemi as a narrator.
I think he does an amazing job. I myself have taken it. I think he does a great job.
Okay.
But to each their own. Who am I to argue?
Yeah, I keep seeing him like in Armageddon.
Yes.
You know, being
sitting on the nuke.
Sitting on the nuke. That.
Ride 'em, cowboy.
But Eastern State, isn't that where they also housed
Al Capone, yes.
Al Capone, yes.
That was also the prison that had the first canine inmate. It was a black lab. Apparently the dog had bit someone, and he was in there.
Really?
They imprisoned a dog?
They imprisoned a dog. They also at one point had a group of horse thieves in there called the way the name looks and spells, it sounds like Buzzard family. And apparently a individual that I know to this day still lives on their old farm.
Wow.
And she has actually welcomed me to come there with my equipment. She said, go ahead. I know what you want to do. Okay.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could get in there to do that while we're out there. That would
I
be
want to
cool.
see why not. We just got to let her know so she can put the coffee pot on.
Yep,
And
gotta
also,
have the go juice.
oh yes, and from also, there's been an archaeological study done on her property. Apparently, they found pottery from pre-contact Native American community.
Really?
Yeah, so that would be a really interesting place to go to.
We may have to explore that.
And I don't see why not, but let me know. I'll tell her to get the coffee ready.
Definitely.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Joe's sitting here. Joe's nodding his head vigorously. He's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm there."
We've also got places in Pennsylvania. There's a place not too far from where I live. It's called they basically just call it the Twin Tunnels, but there are so many different stories, photos, legends that go around those tunnels. They said the mafia would kill murder people and kind of like stuff them like in the walls, or if you open your windows and drove through, you could hear like a baby crying or feel somebody swinging from the roof. I mean that's one place. There's another place, again not too far. It's a place called the Gates of Hell, and apparently they've seen apparitions that go around, I guess, the house that's on the property. There, people have been chased out by hellhounds and whatnot. I mean, it's interesting as you know what out here.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sounds like we're racking up a bunch of places to visit.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I think it's going to take us longer than a week.
I'll start my list now. Because this area does get some interesting things.
Now, we talked a little bit. I mean, we mentioned Eastern State Penitentiary, which is on Joe's bucket list. What are some of your bucket list items, Aubrey?
Oh, I have so many. It's not even funny. The Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum,
Mm-hmm.
Waverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go back to Cape May, and actually, there's an ugly looking Victorian mansion. It's called the Physic House, but it's
Mm-hmm.
a museum, and they will actually let you investigate in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I would love to go through California and check out some of the haunted locations out there. You know, they do a Black Dahlia murder tour. They do ghost tours and hearses. I think that would be interesting as heck. I'd be all over it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. So many to name.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd also like to go back over to England. Gosh, it's been like 11 years since I've been there, but I would like to check out places like the Tower and Trader's Gate. That's where they had executed several of the queens of Henry VIII. I've been to Hampton Court, and that has a unique feel to it, I'll say.
Yeah, when I was out in California last July, I had the opportunity of going to Alcatraz. I only took the tour, but I didn't get to investigate.
Oh, let me tell you, Joe, that would be another place on my list. As a matter of fact, my sister has been there.
Mm-hmm.
She had something happen to her. They were in the prison, they're walking around, but suddenly the power goes out.
Really?
Yes, the blue, the power goes out. Mind you, they were down in the hole in solitary confinement. I told her as soon as the lights come back on, I said, take a picture real quick. She's like, why? I said, just do it. She's standing, of all places, in front of cell number 13, and there's like literally an orb on top of her head.
An orb?
A big one. She's like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Yeah. She's like, why does it feel weird down here? I said, I'll let you think about it. Almost got smacked when she got home from California.
So, any places in the Midwest or, say, Colorado maybe that you want to investigate? You want to come out here and visit us for a little while?
I'm just going to bring a cot, a six-pack, and, like, some good food and just, like, hang out there.
Well, you don't need to bring a cot, girlfriend. We got a spare room ready for you.
Woohoo! Hey, if I hear anything funny, I won't know if I should put on earplugs and go, you guys knock it off. If I hear some, ooh, hey, now, is that a ghost? I don't think so.
Is that a ghost or is it Joe?
No, we know him. This is me. Oh. And I can see other things on.
Oh, you broke out there, Aubrey. I'm not sure what happened. We can hear you, but you're very, very muffled.
Sorry. How's that?
That's perfect. I'm sorry. What were you saying there, girlfriend?
I was saying Joe's probably sitting there listening to these comments I'm making towards him, and he's going, you wait, girl. You wait till you get out here. I'm like, little butt.
No, he wouldn't kick your butt. He'd have a big hug ready for you, though.
Oh, that's fine. Then he'd say, feeling froggy? Let's bounce. And he's probably sitting there holding his chin going,
Yeah.
See, I know Joe.
But what's interesting out here is I have not seen them yet, but from what I understand, there's a lot of ghost towns out here too.
Oh, I love ghost towns. The weirder, the better.
Oh yeah.
The more remote, the better.
Yeah, we've got some old mining towns, some old abandoned mining towns here. So lots of really cool places to explore and lots of things to see and lots of things to do if you can handle the altitude. That's the big problem.
Yeah.
A lot of people get out here and go, I can't breathe.
That's when you go, wait.
Well, when you get here, just don't run 26-mile marathon.
Right. But it's time for our next break of the evening. But when we come back, we're going to have our final segment with Aubrey. So stay tuned, folks. You're listening to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Clarissa Vasquez. Riding shotgun this evening, as always, is the twizzle in my martini, Mr. Joe White.
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
And we are having a great time talking to our guest tonight. She is the founder and director of Thin Line Paranormal out of Pennsylvania, Miss Aubrey Baldwin.
What? Yeah, buddy.
So, Aubrey, we've done a wide variety of topics tonight. And the one thing I guess I want to talk to you about next is, what do you feel is the most important thing for brand new investigators to either learn or know or have?
I honestly think it's always good to set a list of rules, guidelines, regulations that everyone can follow. Another big thing is they have to learn to communicate amongst one another. It can't be, okay, I'm going to talk to person A and then talk to person B. No. You have to basically talk to the whole alphabet all at once. It's also good to learn about what you're investigating, whether it's just learning to about ghosts, about phenomena, looking through pictures. Know your subject. Know what you want to do, what you want to look for. Because if you don't know what you're looking for and you have no clue what you're talking about, you're just better off sitting there having pizza and a beer on a Friday.
Okay, I have a question on that.
Yes.
What would you say to those people that decide they want to go in blind and they don't want to know any of the hot spots or what's going on at a particular location or the history behind it?
That's all fine and dandy, but at least have an idea of what you're talking about. I mean, you can go in blind. You don't have to do the research, but make sure you at least know what you're talking about before you go in. Because say down the line someone wants to interview them. They don't want to make a total fool of themselves. They want to look professional and businesslike. Because even though this may be for fun, people that run themselves in a professional and business-like manner, they're the ones that you're going to remember the most. Not Joe Schmo out in left field holding his glove going, I think I saw something.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, always. No, I mean, and this is one thing I always tell my other members, hey, read about different phenomena. Look at pictures. Look at some of the methods other people have used. They may not be right for you, but at least you have an idea of what others have done in the past, what you may want to do in the future.
Yeah. Now, do you encourage your team members to, read books, read articles, watch YouTube videos? Do you encourage them to educate themselves in various ways?
Certainly, all the time. As a matter of fact, one thing we do is if any of us gets a new piece of equipment, we make sure everybody on the team learns it. Say, for instance, that particular team member that owns said equipment is not going to be there on the night of the investigation and is more than willing to let you use it. Then you have an idea how that equipment is going to work, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, how to recognize strange or unique readings on said piece of equipment.
Interesting.
I mean, we have a guy on the team that has so many different pieces of equipment. It's been fun trying to learn them all, but at least each of us has a knowledge of how the equipment works, which is the biggest thing.
And as far as different phenomena goes and different theories and philosophies and techniques and stuff, do you encourage your team members to educate themselves about those?
Yes.
Or do you prefer to develop your own theories, techniques, and philosophies?
I ask them to educate themselves,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be from other philosophies, books, and such. But I want them also to be able to formulate their own theories and ideas.
Okay. And what method do you prefer they use to educate themselves? Is it books? Is it YouTube videos? Is it different web articles? What's your preferred method for educating?
I would like them to read actual paper as opposed to using electronic devices and whatnot. Paper has always been my go-to. If they would prefer to use other methods, by all means, I'm not going to tell them no. But I always ask, pick up a book and read it.
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, from one investigator to another, I can send you a list of really good books on the subject. They're not just how-tos, but they, some of them also encompass theories and techniques that are really, really good for people out in the field.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to send you that list
That would be
because
great.
it's a really good list.
That would be really good.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, and not all of them were written by me.
Sadly, I haven't had the chance to read any of your books yet, but I promise I will.
Oh, Aubrey.
I'm terrible.
I know. Girlfriend,
Uh,
you're slacking.
I deserve to be. Well, I won't put that in the. I'll say that later. But sitting in the corner with a dunce cap would be the nice way of saying it.
Well, I'll tell you what. You PM me your mailing address and I'll send you a copy. I'll send you a signed copy of my latest book. How does that sound?
Stop. That's me while I plot to my jammies. I know I'm terrible, aren't I?
Yeah, that her latest book with
Yeah.
with Chris Carr. That was a phenomenal book. It really is.
Yep. In fact, I'm holding a copy of it in my hot little hands. It is called Debunking Common Paranormal Myths, Exploring Psychosomatic Pareidolia.
There's my favorite word, pareidolia. I love that word. All these people think they see images, and I said, nope, pareidolia. That's all I say, pareidolia. They're like, what's that? I'm like, wait a minute, you've been in the field how long and you haven't even thought of this term? Oh boy, it's going to be one of them.
It's just like I believe it was last week I showed Clarissa a picture that was on my Facebook feed, and I believe it was put up by a mutual friend of ours, and she was talking about clouds, how our brain would perceive looking at clouds and making out different shapes and everything, and it was actually a cloud that was what we interpreted as a dog or a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had that type of instance myself coming back from Florida once. It almost looked like an angel holding up one of those long trumpets.
Ah.
uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't mind cloud watching or even stargazing and whatnot. It's just let's the mind imagine. Let's the mind process things.
Yeah, like just an example, like a mirror. You clean the mirror, you put your Windex on it, and you wipe it down, and you get smudges all over it, and the light reflects off the smudges, and it makes it look like there's a face in it looking back at you.
Yeah, that's one thing I am. Oh yeah, that looks good. Have you Windexed that bad boy lately? Like a glass wipe might work. A little elbow grease. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but this book that she's going to send you it's for seasoned investigators. It's for people just getting into the field. It's for everybody. So it's real easy to read.
Awesome. I can see it now. I'm prepping dessert, and I'll be like, "Sorry, you gotta give me 5 minutes. I'm reading my book. I'm like chapter 2 already." No, leave me alone. Y'all, you know what? I'm just gonna take my half-hour break now. I just need to read through this. Be back in a little bit. Yes, I know the author. She's amazing. I'm tooting your horn. I got to.
Yeah, flattery will get you everywhere.
Oh my, then do I have a list? I don't know who'd be blushing more, you or me. Or Joe.
So, Aubrey, we've only got about 9 minutes left with you. Where can people find you? Where can they find Thin Line Paranormal? What do you want our listeners to take away from our time with you this evening?
I would like them not just to learn about me, not just about the group, but to open them up, to open them to different possibilities, to different realities. Everything's just not all black and white. A lot of things are rainbow colored.
Okay.
I don't want them to be closed-minded anymore. I want them to realize there's just so much out there. You know, it's not just the buildings. It's not just. There are things that are just behind the glass, just behind the building, and it could be scary. It could be pretty awesome, but I want them to be able to take that look and just go, "Hey, that was neat." At least.
Mm-hmm. And so where can people find you? Where can they find Thin Line Paranormal? And how can they contact you if they have an investigation out in the Pennsylvania area that they want you to come and take a look at?
All right. I myself am on Facebook under Aubrey Baldwin. My picture is black and white. You can't miss it. To find my group, all you have to do is type in Thin Line Paranormal. If you happen to find the picture with the awesome looking ghost with the wicked looking crazy clouds behind it, that's us. If you'd like to contact us, we have a team email under thinlineparanormal@gmail.com. I mean, we're more than happy to come out to your home, check things out, give you an analysis, give you an opinion, or send it to us in an email. As I mentioned, it's a team email, and we do share that information amongst the 4 main members and the 2 honorary members.
Now, are your investigations, are they confidential, or do you publicize where you've been and what you're doing?
If it's a historical site, yes, but if it's more residential, we will not release anything unless we have 100% permission from the homeowner.
Okay. And do you charge for your services?
No, we do not.
Outstanding. We like to hear that. And if I may, we ask people a lot, do you charge for your services? And most people say no. I'd like to know, why don't you charge for your services?
That's just not the way to do it. We're not money hungry. We do it not only for learning, but we take that information. We do learn from it and whatnot, but if we share the information, maybe others will learn from what we have found.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But when you charge money for something, it's like, okay, you're only doing it for money. No, you can't do it for just money. You got to do it for the learning purposes of it, the education of it, from sharing an unspoken history from what they may know as opposed to what we really know.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting. And so people can contact you for a free investigation. What about the aftercare? What do you do or prescribe, or how do you handle the situation after you've gone into someone's home or business and conducted your investigation, what is your policy for the aftercare?
If what we have done, if something amps up, or if the situation should happen to get worse, I recommend that they contact us immediately. And we will go through what's been going on since, and if another visit is needed to remedy the situation, by all means.
And what do you do to remedy the situation?
We may need to go back and either A, conduct another investigation. We may need to do a home blessing or a cleansing. It all depends on the situation as to what's going on at the time.
And what do your cleansings consist of?
Oh, I have a few interesting things in my little black magic bag. It could be sage. I have holy water. I have blessed salt, holy oil. It really depends on the situation, because if it's something that we may not be able to handle, we will find somebody that can. We will see it to the end.
Okay, very good. Well, Aubrey, we want to thank you for being such a great guest on the show. As always, we love having you on the show with us. You never cease to make us laugh.
Come on. I always have you guys cracking up before the end of the night.
That's right.
Hi.
That's right. You are always making us laugh, and especially Mr. Benage Spook over here.
Benage Spook around the world. There we go.
And we definitely wish you the best of luck with your research. We wish you the best of luck with Thin Line Paranormal. And like I said, be sure to send me a private message with your home address, and I will get that book out to you here soon. And,
certainly.
And feel free to share it with your team members as well, because and I will definitely get you that list of reading materials for you and your team to obtain. Also, a lot of those books are available in libraries, but I have found that it's better to just have them on hand so that you've got something to reference as needed. Mm-hmm. But to each their own. Not everybody can afford to buy books. But we definitely want to thank you for being such a great guest on the show, and best of luck in all your endeavors, girlfriend.
Why, thank you, dear. And Joe, you better behave yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Tell me another one. Hand me a shovel. It's getting deep up in this place.
But it is time for our final break of the evening, but when we come back, we'll have more with Joe and myself. So stay tuned. You're listening to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Para-Scope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Clarissa Vasquez. Riding shotgun this evening is the man who puts the sprinkles on my donut, Mr. Joe White.
Well, hello, everybody.
And we are having a great time tonight. We have been talking to our good friend and colleague, Miss Aubrey Baldwin from Thin Line Paranormal. And, she said something tonight that kind of made me go, And she mentioned orbs. And most of our listeners know that I am not an advocate of orb phenomena. In fact, I've developed an acronym for them. I refer to them as ordinary random bits of stuff, ORBS. Joe, what are your thoughts on it?
I agree with your assessment 10,000%. I think real orbs are far in between, and what we see in some particular location could be anything from bugs, dust, to
water
fiberglass,
vapors,
water vapors, yeah, any of that stuff. So it's I just think it's, very far in between.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, and not to give a lot away, but the article that I mentioned, that I'm going to be featured in the Paranormal Chronicles magazine, coming up here, I think in just a few weeks. The title of that article that I wrote is called The Great Orb Debate. And I really put orbs under a microscope and go, look, it's, it could be dust, it could be bugs, it could be water vapor, swamp gas, ball lightning, in extremely rare cases, but even more rare is when it's actual spirit activity. And I actually list the reasons how and why it is not spirit activity, and I've got a rebuttal for pretty much everything. Somebody says, well, my orb was, orange or blue or yellow, I've got a rebuttal answer for that. Oh, I saw a face in the orb, I've got a rebuttal for that. It could even be, like dead skin cells or dust mites, or, it could be anything floating in the air. And, we even talk about, Newton's law and air currents and everything. So I highly encourage our listeners to find a copy of the summer edition of the Paranormal Chronicles magazine as soon as it comes out, and read that article, because it just might change your world, just might blow your mind.
As far as dust goes, isn't that like primarily 90% of human skin made of?
Not necessarily. Dust could be, one singular piece of dirt. People are like, oh, the place that I was in was so clean. There was no dust. There is no escaping dust. Unless you're in a clean room where they manufacture like microchips or CDs or something,
correct,
you're going to encounter dust. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's there. There are millions of dust particles stacked on top of each other in order to make a visible layer.
Especially if you get heat ducts.
Oh yeah, if you've got heating or air conditioning ducts, if you've got animals, there's pet dander. If you're a smoker, there's cigarette residue everywhere. There's dead skin cells or dust mites or fibers from clothing. Denim jeans are the worst for actually producing and contributing to dust.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep. And, people say, well, it can't be water vapor because it wasn't raining or snowing and it wasn't humid. And, my rebuttal to that is, were you breathing?
That's true.
Because when you breathe, you expel millions of microscopic water particles, within the carbon dioxide as you exhale. So yes,
true.
there is water in the air.
Yep.
And so, there's a lot of rebuttal examples for the popular arguments, that people that support the orb theory tend to give. And so I highly encourage everybody to check out Paranormal Chronicles magazine when it comes out, which I believe it's going to be out in early June. Not 100% sure, but as soon as I find out for sure, I will be sure to let our listeners know.
And last week you brought up the fact that one single speck of dust contains more crevices and craters than the Grand Canyon and the moon combined.
That's right.
And that's interesting. Because I get the question, or someone always says to me, it's like, yeah, I always see faces in it. Oh.
Hello, pareidolia.
Yeah. It's even in your book, right? Your latest book?
It is. It is in Debunking Common Paranormal Myths, Exploring Psychosomatic Pareidolia, which is available on Amazon. We're still in a little bit of a battle with the publisher because when the publisher released the book to Amazon, they misspelled psychosomatic on the Amazon listing.
Oh.
Yeah. So you go onto Amazon and psychosomatic is misspelled. And so we catch a lot of flack for that, even though that wasn't our doing. But it is spelled correctly in and on the book. So
So the best way to get the book would just be go to Amazon and look up your name?
yeah, the best way to find all 6 of my books is to go to Amazon and look up my name, as long as you spell my name right. It's Clarissa with 1 R and 2 S's, and Vasquez, Vazquez. And you'll find all 6 of my books right there.
Very nice.
So
who we got coming up next week?
next week we have got Eric, Chris, and John from Memphis Empath Paranormal Society. Don't know a whole lot about them. Stumbled across them on a social media page, and they seemed like a bunch of interesting guys, and it seemed like a really interesting organization. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, I want to learn more about you. Come on the show. And they went, yeah, great.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting show. I'm curious to find out, if they, obviously they have, some team members must have abilities. So I wonder how that plays into their investigations and whatnot.
Exactly. And, is it just the 3 of them, or are there more of them? And, do you have to be an empath in order to be part of their organization? We're going to find out. So be sure to tune in here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama, 9 p.m. Eastern next Thursday. And we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Can't wait for that.
I can't wait for it either. And then so far we don't have a guest for May 30th, but coming up on June 6th, we're going to have Rick McCollum from Hollywood Ghost Hunters.
His triumphant return.
Yes, his triumphant return. We talked to him last fall when we were on a different network. And so, new network, new listeners, but same great programming. And so we're excited to have Rick back and talk to him and see what he's been up to. I know he went to Ireland for the first time back in March. So that's going to be exciting to talk to him and find out what he did while he was in Ireland, what he investigated, and what, if anything, did he find.
I wonder if he went to Lep Castle.
I know for a fact that he did.
Oh.
I know, I'm jealous.
That's, on a different, when we did that first show on the other network, I made a mistake and said that I wanted to go to Lep Mansion. I meant to say Lep Castle.
I've been to Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. I've been there. I've investigated there. Great place. Love it.
I never heard of it.
You'd never heard of it until
that first show that we did with Rick.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, Lemp Mansion in St. Louis is great, and it was one of the places I wanted to when we were driving across the country. I wanted to, at least stop there, but we were running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that road trip goes, I don't want to. I think my road trip is done for a little bit.
Yeah, we're both a little burned out on road trips right now, aren't we?
If we go anywhere further away than, typical few hours, I'd rather fly. I don't know, that was just too much for me.
It was. Well, part of it was because of the lack of room in the car, and you were so cramped up.
I was.
You and your Amazonian legs.
Right.
But here in the house coming up tomorrow night, we're having a big party because the offspring is graduating from high school.
Yes. Congratulations, offspring.
Yeah, he's graduating from high school. Bittersweet moment for Mom. And he just got his driver's license. And so this morning I got to ride with him in the car driving for the first time. That was at first a little nerve-wracking for me, but I didn't have to hit the imaginary brake once. So
I give him kudos for that.
yeah, he did great.
Considering how many times did you hit the imaginary brake when I drove?
I lost count.
Yeah.
I lost count in the first few minutes.
Yeah.
Yep. But, Joe, we're out of time.
Ooh.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes.
But be sure to tune in next Thursday when we have Eric, Chris, and John from Memphis Empath Paranormal Society right here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. It's going to be a great time. And 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but 9 p.m. Eastern is the time to tune in live. And you can always find us on www.wbhm-db.com. And come on over. Yes, out of Birmingham, Alabama. And come on over and participate in our chat room. Joe and I are in the chat room right now. We won't be for much longer, but you can always chat with like-minded and sometimes not so like-minded individuals. And it's always a good time in the chat room. So until then, we want to wish everybody a great night. And so for Joe, Aubrey, Kat, the WBHM family of hosts, and myself, have a fantastic evening, and may all of your ghosts be friendly.
Stay spooky, everybody.
Good night.